You know what's interesting? The more a man acts like he doesn't care, the more a woman starts to care. The more distant he becomes, the more she starts chasing him, and it makes you wonder why. Why does a woman, who might be intelligent, beautiful, and capable, end up chasing someone who barely acknowledges her existence? It's not because she's weak, and it's not because she lacks self respect. It's because, somewhere deep inside, she has been conditioned to associate love with struggle, to believe that the harder it is to earn someone's attention, the more valuable that attention must be. When someone starts to pull away, she doesn't think he's not for me. No, her mind instantly goes into survival mode. What did I do wrong? Why is he distant? How can I make him see my worth again? And that's where she loses herself. She starts chasing validation instead of peace. She starts fighting for connection instead of observing the reality that's right in front of her, that he's showing her what he feels through his silence. But she keeps chasing because, in her heart, she still believes she can change his mind. You see, every time she sends that extra message, every time she tries to get his attention, every time she compromises her boundaries to keep him, she thinks she's fighting for love. But what she's really doing is abandoning herself. She's teaching him and herself that her value depends on his response. And that's the most dangerous lesson anyone can learn. Here's the truth: you cannot convince someone to see your worth. You can only embody it. The more you try to make someone care, the less they will, because people don't value what's handed to them without effort, they value what they could lose. That's where the real power of silence comes in. Silence isn't punishment, it's a mirror. It reflects truth. It forces both sides to face what's real. When she finally stops chasing, when she goes no contact not as a manipulation tactic, but as an act of self respect, something shifts. The energy changes, the focus returns to her. She remembers who she was before the anxiety, before the waiting, before the constant wondering if she was enough. That's when the tables turn. That's when he starts to notice the absence of her energy, because, whether he admitted it or not, he was feeding off her attention. Now that attention is gone, that validation, that reassurance, that presence, it's all gone, and suddenly silence becomes louder than any words she could ever say. That's when curiosity turns into realization, and realization often turns into regret, but that's not the goal. The goal isn't to make anyone chase you. The goal is to outgrow the version of you that needed to chase anyone at all. To understand that real love doesn't demand your dignity. It meets you with effort, consistency, and clarity. You never need to fight for what's meant for you. You never need to beg for attention that's freely given when it's genuine. So stop chasing what's running away from you. Stop trying to prove your worth to someone who was blind to it from the start. The moment you choose peace over pursuit, the moment you stop trying to convince someone to stay, you rise. You step into your own energy, calm, confident, magnetic, and that's when the world starts to shift in your favor. Because people chase what feels rare, and nothing is rarer than a woman who knows her worth, walks in silence, and refuses to settle for being treated like she's nothing. When you start chasing someone who's emotionally unavailable, you don't just lose them, you lose yourself. You stop being that woman who once had clarity, peace, and standards. You become someone who's constantly second, guessing, overthinking, waiting for a reply that never comes, replaying conversations in your head, trying to find where you went wrong. But here's what you need to understand. It's not about what you did wrong. It's about what you tolerated for too long. When a man acts like he doesn't care, It's a reflection of where he's at emotionally, not a reflection of your worth. But when you chase after that energy, when you keep trying to prove that you're good enough to make him change, you step out of your feminine power and into desperation. And desperation is the death of attraction. You can't inspire love by begging for it. You can't earn respect by overextending yourself. The moment you try to convince someone to see your value, you're already operating from a place of loss. You start telling yourself, if I just show him how much I care, he'll finally realize what I mean to him. But he won't. Because people only realize the value of something when they feel the asterisk absence asterisk of it, not when it's always available. That's why pulling back is so powerful. When you finally stop explaining yourself, when you stop sending messages to fill the silence, when you stop chasing, you give him the one thing he's never experienced before, a asterisk distance with dignity, asterisk. That's when the energy shifts. That's when curiosity starts creeping in. Why isn't she calling anymore? Why isn't she trying to fix things? Did she move on? And suddenly, the same woman who was once easily available becomes mysterious again. But here's the important part: this isn't about playing games. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about choosing yourself again, because the more you chase, the further you drift from yourself. See, every time you overextend for someone who isn't reciprocating, you're teaching your subconscious that love equals pain, waiting, and anxiety. You start associating affection with effort. The harder you try, the more it must mean. But real love doesn't demand that kind of struggle. Real love flows. It meets you halfway. It doesn't make you question your worth or your place in someone's life. And when you finally pull back, when you choose silence instead of chasing, something incredible happens within you. You start to feel your strength again. You begin to realize that your peace is priceless, that not every connection deserves your energy, that someone's inability to love you properly is not your fault. That's when you become magnetic, because nothing is more attractive than a woman who knows when to walk away. A woman who doesn't argue, doesn't beg, doesn't explain, she simply removes her energy from where it isn't valued. That's what makes people chase, not manipulation, not revenge, not pride, but peace. So stop giving people discounts on your energy. Stop showing up for someone who doesn't even notice your presence. You are not meant to convince anyone of your value. You are meant to asterisk embody asterisk it. Let your silence speak. Let your absence be felt. Let your boundaries remind them that losing access to you is not a small thing. Because the truth is, when you stop chasing, you stop losing. You start becoming everything they thought they could take for granted until they realize they can't find it anywhere else. Let me tell you something powerful: when you pull back, when you stop chasing, when you stop over-explaining, and when you stop begging to be understood, something shifts inside you and in the energy between you and them. You start taking your power back. You stop handing over your emotional control to someone else. And that's when everything begins to change. Because silence, when it comes from strength, speaks louder than any words ever could. It's not emptiness, it's presence. It's saying, I'm still here, but I'm choosing peace over chaos. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it in the first place, you become different in their eyes. You become unpredictable. They start wondering why you're not reaching out. They start noticing the void your absence creates. And that's the irony: the moment you stop chasing, they finally start seeing, because attention loses its value when it's always guaranteed. But the minute you pull it back, the energy flips. Suddenly, what was taken for granted becomes something rare, something missed, something desired. And it's not because you did something magical, it's because you finally stopped doing too much. You stepped out of the cycle of proving, pleasing, and overgiving. You stopped centering your happiness around someone else's approval. That's when real attraction begins, not the superficial kind, not the temporary high, but the type that's rooted in self-respect and quiet confidence. See, silence isn't just about ignoring someone, it's about remembering yourself. It's a form of healing. It's how you realign your emotions and reclaim your peace. Every time you stay quiet instead of reacting, you tell the universe, I trust my worth enough not to fight for recognition. And that's powerful because not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves your access. Not everyone is worthy of hearing your heart after showing they couldn't handle your soul. When you pull back, you also create space for clarity, space for perspective, space to see the situation as it really is, not as you wish it were. That space shows you who's willing to meet you halfway and who only wanted you around because you kept showing up first. And when they start chasing after your silence, you'll realize something profound. It was never about them. It was about you, about whether you were willing to lose your peace to keep someone who wasn't even trying to stay. So, when you go quiet, don't see it as a loss, see it as transformation. You're not being cold, you're being conscious. You're not punishing anyone, you're protecting your peace, because your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. You'll notice that people who were once indifferent suddenly start reaching out. They start testing the waters, trying to see if the door is still open. That's because your silence made them feel something they weren't expecting, the weight of your absence. But remember, this isn't about making them chase you. It's about realizing you don't need to chase anyone. You are not supposed to beg for attention, convince someone of your worth, or compete for affection. The right connection doesn't require you to lose yourself. It recognizes your value without you having to scream it. So don't underestimate the power of pulling back. Let silence do what words never could. Let distance reveal the truth. And most importantly, let your peace become your statement. Because when you can stay calm in the face of indifference, when you can walk away without bitterness, when you can be silent and still feel complete, that's when you've mastered the art of emotional power. That's when you stop needing to chase and start naturally attracting everything meant for you. See, no contact isn't a game, it's a mirror. It's not about ignoring someone to make them suffer or waiting for them to crawl back. It's about reflection for both sides. When you go silent, when you step back without anger, without pleading, without sending one more "I just wanted to check in" a message, you give space for truth to surface. You stop forcing something that's already slipping away, and in that stillness, everything becomes clear. For them, no contact reveals the weight of your absence. They start to realize that your presence wasn't ordinary. It carried warmth, attention, consistency. When that's gone, they feel it, not immediately, because people who take others for granted rarely notice what they have while it's there. But over time, the silence grows louder. They remember your energy, your tone, your patience, your effort, and they notice the void that follows when it's no longer there. That's when realization creeps in. You were never asking for too much, they were giving too little. But here's the deeper truth: no contact isn't for them. It's for you. It's your opportunity to remember who you were before the confusion, before the chasing, before the constant anxiety of wondering if you were enough. When you go no contact, you stop trying to fix something that was never one-sidedly yours to repair. You stop pouring love into a situation that only drained you. You redirect that energy inward into peace, healing, and rediscovering your strength. At first, it hurts. The silence feels heavy. Your mind will try to trick you, or maybe I should text. Maybe he just needs a reminder. Maybe he's waiting for me to reach out. But that's just the old version of you clinging to a hope that no longer serves you. The power of no contact lies in patience. It teaches you to sit with discomfort without reacting. It shows you that healing doesn't come from getting answers. It comes from letting go of the need for them. With time, something beautiful happens. The silence that once felt unbearable begins to feel peaceful. You start to realize you're not waiting for a message anymore. You're not constantly checking your phone. You're not living in reaction mode. You're living again for yourself. That's when you know the shift has happened. Because when you finally make peace with silence, you stop being controlled by someone else's presence or absence. You stop chasing closure from people who were never capable of giving it. You become your own closure. And if they do come back, if they suddenly reappear with a message or a call, you'll notice something else has changed too. Asterisk you. Asterisk, you're not the same woman who used to wait anxiously. You're not desperate for explanations or attention. You're calm, composed, grounded. You've seen your worth reflected back in your own silence. Whether you choose to respond or not, it comes from strength, not fear. That's what no contact does. It rebuilds you. It separates attachment from affection. It teaches you that love without respect isn't love at all. It's dependency dressed up as devotion. And once you've lived through that silence, once you've felt your power return, you'll never again beg for what's freely given in real love. So remember, no contact isn't about punishment or pride. It's a boundary that says, I deserve peace more than I need attention. It's how you show the world and yourself that you are done chasing what diminishes you. It's how you break the cycle. Because the moment you stop trying to be heard and instead start listening to your own silence, that's the moment everything changes. That's the moment you rise. You want to make her chase you. Stop trying to convince her. Stop trying to prove yourself. Stop showing up everywhere hoping she'll finally see what she lost. Because the truth is, the more you try to show your worth, the less she feels it. People don't value what's always trying to be seen. They value what stands firm in silence. You don't make someone chase you by playing games or pretending not to care. You make them chase you by mastering the art of detachment, by showing through your actions that you no longer need their validation to feel complete. When you stop reaching out, when you stop explaining, when you stop begging for another chance, something begins to shift. She notices. At first, she might think you've moved on. She'll convince herself you're just playing it cool. But as time passes, that confidence starts to fade. Curiosity kicks in. Why isn't he calling? Why isn't he reacting? Did he stop caring? That uncertainty is what flips the energy. Because while you're focusing on healing and rebuilding your peace, she's slowly realizing she lost the one person who truly saw her, and she might have taken it for granted. But here's the thing, your silence must come from strength, not spite. Detachment isn't about pretending you don't care, it's about caring from a distance. It's about accepting that chasing someone who doesn't value your effort only leads to exhaustion. When you let go, you don't lose power, you gain it. You shift from trying to control the outcome to mastering your emotions. You stop reacting, and that's when the other person starts noticing the change in your energy. You want her to chase you, focus on yourself, level up, heal, build, grow. When you pour your attention into becoming better instead of bitter, your energy changes and energy never lies. She'll feel it when she sees that you're no longer moved by her silence, that you've stopped waiting for her to return. That's when her curiosity turns into concern. Because people always come back to the energy that once fed them, especially when they realize they can't find it anywhere else. But you can't fake this transformation. It has to come from a real place. No contact isn't a trick. It's a test of your patience, your strength, your ability to stay true to your boundaries. The more you break your silence just to check in or get a reaction, the weaker your message becomes. The more you stay grounded, the more powerful your absence feels. Remember, detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over desperation. And when she does come back, because if the connection had depth, she eventually will, don't fall back into the old dynamic. Don't rush to prove that you still care. Let your calmness do the talking. Let your composure remind her that you're no longer the same person she could take for granted. That's what makes people chase, the realization that what once seemed easy to have has become rare to reach. In the end, the goal isn't to make her chase you just to feed your ego. It's to rebuild yourself so deeply that her presence or absence no longer defines your peace. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. You attract through confidence, through stillness, through self-assurance. You attract when you become someone who doesn't need to prove anything because your energy speaks for itself. So stop convincing, stop begging, stop showing up where your worth isn't recognized. Walk away with grace. Let silence do what words can't. Because when you stop needing to be chosen, that's when people start realizing your value, and that's when they chase. People chase what they feel they could lose. That's the truth most don't want to accept. When someone knows you'll always be there, always answer, always forgive, always come back, they stop valuing your presence. Comfort becomes complacency. They start believing that no matter how little they give, you'll still be waiting. But when you pull your energy back, when you stop showing up for people who take you for granted, that's when they start feeling your absence in ways they didn't expect. That's when they realize you were never ordinary, you were their peace disguised as persistence. See, people don't value what's easy to access. They value what requires effort, presence, and respect. When you stop chasing, you change the dynamic. You create space, you create curiosity, you make them wonder what happened, did I lose them, are they gone for good? That sense of uncertainty is what sparks reflection. Suddenly, the person who once acted indifferent starts noticing how quiet it's become without your messages, your laughter, your warmth. Silence, when it's rooted in self-respect, has gravity, it pulls attention without effort. But understand this, the goal isn't to manipulate anyone into chasing you. It's to remind yourself that your worth was never meant to be proven. When you stop running after someone, you give them the chance to meet you halfway, and if they don't, you free yourself from a one-sided story. Because nothing drains your soul faster than chasing someone who's comfortable being chased. The more you pursue, the more they retreat. The more you wait for them to realize your value, the more they forget it. But the moment you walk away genuinely, not as a tactic, but as a truth, that's when the energy resets. That's why people start chasing when you stop. It's not magic. It's human nature. We crave what we think we're losing. We miss what used to be certain when it suddenly disappears. And sometimes it takes that silence for them to realize how much they depended on your energy. But here's where your real power lies, not in their reaction, but in your ability to stay grounded even if they never come back. Because peace doesn't depend on who stays or leaves. It depends on how deeply you've learned to honor yourself. You don't need to play hard to get. You need to be hard to lose. That happens when you start choosing yourself, when you build a life that's full even in their absence. You become magnetic when you're not waiting for someone to validate your worth. You attract naturally when you stop overgiving and start protecting your energy. The moment you realize that you are the prize, everything changes. People chase what shines, not what clings. They chase confidence, mystery, and calm energy. They chase those who know who they are and don't need to be completed by anyone. So don't chase, don't beg. Don't keep proving yourself to someone who already knows your worth but refuses to value it. Instead, step back and let time reveal the truth. The right person will meet you where you stand, the wrong one will fade. And in both cases, you win because you kept your peace. In the end, the ones who truly value you will never risk losing you. And those who only valued your effort will understand its worth once it's gone. That's when the chase begins, not because you played games, but because you stopped playing yourself. Remember this, real power isn't in making someone run after you. It's in knowing that even if no one does, you're still enough. You were the value all along, they just needed to lose it to see it. When you hold your ground, when you stand in silence with strength, you become rare. And rarity always creates desire. People are drawn to what feels valuable, what feels scarce, what feels calm and grounded in its own power. That's the kind of energy that doesn't chase, it attracts. Because when you're grounded in who you are, when you stop reacting to every bit of distance or silence, you project something magnetic, control. And control isn't about manipulation, it's about emotional mastery. It's about knowing that no one outside of you gets to dictate your peace. When you stand firm in your energy, people can feel it. You stop giving off the vibration of desperation. You stop radiating need. Instead, your energy says, I'm fine with or without you. That energy is irresistible not because it's cold, but because it's confident. Most people chase what they can't easily have, not because they want to possess it, but because they want to understand it. They want to know why it's so unaffected, why it's so calm when everything else is loud. And that's what happens when you hold your ground. You trigger curiosity, reflection, and desire all at once. But holding your ground isn't easy. It requires discipline. It means not texting even when you want to, not explaining even when your heart aches to be understood, and not reacting even when silence feels unbearable. It's choosing to protect your dignity over temporary comfort. It's reminding yourself that if something is meant for you, it won't need chasing. It will meet you where you are. That's the power of being still in a world that constantly demands reaction. Stillness creates space for revelation. When you stay quiet, people begin to reveal themselves. The ones who care will come closer. The ones who don't will drift away. And that's not a loss, that's clarity, because you finally start seeing who's truly aligned with you and who was just there for the attention you gave. Silence exposes what words could never explain. It separates the genuine from the opportunistic. It teaches you that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one you never make. Standing your ground also means valuing yourself enough to set emotional boundaries. It's knowing that not every call deserves to be answered, not every message deserves a reply, and not every person deserves a second chance. It's understanding that love doesn't have to come at the cost of your self respect. And when you embody that, people sense it immediately. Your calmness becomes your power, your restraint becomes your mystery, your silence becomes your loudest language. Eventually, the same people who once underestimated you start to feel uneasy. They remember your warmth, your effort, your energy, and they realize it's gone. They start chasing that feeling again, not because they've suddenly changed, but because your absence made them confront what they lost. That's the irony of human behavior. People often don't recognize value until it's no longer available. But by the time they notice, you're no longer the same. You've grown. You've learned that peace is more valuable than attention, that self respect is more fulfilling than validation. You've realized that being rare isn't about playing games. It's about being genuine in a world that rewards performance. You're not withholding love, you're refusing to give it where it isn't appreciated. So, yes, when you hold your ground, you become rare. But that rarity isn't about pride or ego, it's about self awareness. You've learned your worth through silence, through discipline, through stillness. And the beauty of it all, once you reach that level of peace, you no longer need anyone to chase you. The right ones will simply align, because real connection doesn't need pursuit. It flows naturally towards strength, calmness, and authenticity. That's what true rarity looks like. The moment you stop chasing, you send out one of the most powerful messages a human being can send. I don't need you to validate my worth. I've already claimed it. That energy is rare, it's calm, it's confident. It's not about arrogance, it's about awareness. It's the quiet realization that your value was never dependent on anyone's attention, approval, or affection. When you finally embody that truth, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to respond differently to you. You see, when you stop needing validation, you start radiating self assurance. Your energy becomes lighter, yet stronger. People can sense it. They can feel that you're no longer attached to outcomes, that you're no longer desperate to be chosen, that you've detached from the need to be understood. And ironically, that's when others start noticing you more, because nothing is more captivating than someone who knows their worth and refuses to negotiate it. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely not needing to be gotten. It's about standing in your truth so deeply that whether someone stays or leaves, your peace remains untouched. That's power. That's what emotional maturity looks like when your mood isn't dictated by who texts, calls, or cares. You become centered in yourself, unshakable by external changes, and that stability is what makes people respect you, even the ones who once took you for granted. When you stop chasing, your silence becomes magnetic. It makes others question their assumptions about you. How did they move on so easily? Why aren't they reacting? What changed? What changed is asterisk you. Asterisk you stopped trying to earn what should have been freely given. You stopped offering explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped begging for connection from those who only wanted control. And in that stillness, you found yourself again. When you live from that place, that inner knowing of who you are, your energy becomes aligned, and you start attracting differently. You stop attracting people who want to use your light and start attracting those who want to protect it. You stop seeking closure from the same hands that broke you. You stop explaining your value because your peace starts speaking louder than your pain ever did. That's when you become untouchable, not because you're distant, but because you're whole. The moment you say, I don't need your validation, you reclaim your identity. You tell the world, my worth doesn't fluctuate with your attention. And when people realize they can't manipulate your emotions anymore, when they can't get the same reactions out of you, that's when they start respecting you, even if they don't fully understand you. Your power lies in that unbothered energy, that quiet strength that says, I'm not here to be liked, I'm here to be at peace, and the beauty of it all. When you reach that level of self-certainty, everything changes, not just relationships, but life itself. Opportunities flow more easily, friendships feel more authentic, love becomes healthier because you're no longer operating from fear or lack. You're no longer clinging to people or situations that aren't aligned with your worth. You've become someone who can walk away with grace, even from things you once prayed for. So, yes, when you stop chasing and finally claim your worth, you become magnetic, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've stopped trying altogether. You've learned that your peace is your power, and when your peace becomes more important than being chosen, the universe begins to align everything meant for you effortlessly. That's when the right people appear, not because you begged for them, but because your energy now speaks a language only truth can hear.